The following readings are from the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. Each week we read from both scriptures as prescribed by Yogananda ji and his guru Sri Yukteswar ji, who was guided by Babaji to compare the two scriptures to show the same underlying truths between them. This week's reading is titled, Does Satan Exist? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The Bible tells us in chapter 4 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, then after baptism, Jesus was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. To most modern minds, this passage seems quaintly obsolete. Psychologists would say, have said, in fact, that the temptation of Jesus, if it occurred at all, was purely psychological. They call it a projection of desires lurking in his own subconscious mind. The subconscious plays a strong part, certainly, if not a unique one, in any testing the spiritual seeker must undergo. The Bhagavad Gita, in dealing with this undeniable reality, quotes Arjuna in the 3rd chapter and then Sri Krishna's reply. Yet tell me, teacher, said Arjuna, by what force doth man go to his ill, unwilling, as if one pushed him in that path? Krishna replied, desire it is, passion it is, born of the darkness, which pusheth him mighty of appetite. Sinful and strong is this, man's enemy. Yet, even Krishna describes passion as born of the darkness. The fact is, as Paramahansa Yogananda wrote in Autobiography of a Yogi, all thoughts vibrate eternally in the cosmos. Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. A truth cannot be created, but only perceived. Psychology, yes, but psychology attuned to the currents of consciousness that pervade the entire universe, attracted by each of us according to our own personal inclinations. Yogananda, quoted in the Path, said, I used to think Satan was only a human invention, but now I know and add my testimony to that of others who lived before me, that Satan is a reality. He is a universal conscious force whose sole aim is to keep all beings bound to the wheel of delusion. We should take pains, then, to attract uplifting currents of universal consciousness and to avoid attracting the negative, which, disease that it is, can infect our thoughts even while it leads us to believe that our thoughts are purely our own. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Well, good morning, everyone, again. Thank you for coming. Okay. Mercury's in retrograde. I don't know if you know or noticed, but it is till the end of the month. So it's wonderful when Mercury's in retrograde because it causes delays and problems, and we have something else to blame it on. Mercury's in retrograde, so these things happen. It's an easy way of not taking it too personally or not getting too frustrated. I was clear. Why did the other person not understand me? Well, that's what miscommunication is, which is also during Mercury in retrograde. So just miscommunication happens, no problem. It allows us to be extra patient with things. I was telling this to a friend of mine, and she said, well, then maybe I think Mercury is always in retrograde for me. So, look, whatever works. If it helps us to be more patient, then fine. So, Master, this is one of Master's poems from Whispers from Eternity. I will broadcast my voice with the chorus of thy songs. And we had just sung together, so that was on, and continuing on that theme. With the soft finger touches of my soul intuition, I tuned the radio of my inner perception. At first I caught only the sounds of nearby experience. Then came a symphony of inner harmony, followed by sweet strains from my heart's orchestra of finer feelings. And then came the swelling chorus of my age-long cravings for thee. All these I caught on the radio of my soul as I kept tuning my perception, waiting to catch the whispers of thy voice, O guardian angel of all souls. With infinite patience I went on tuning my radio. At last, when I was almost prepared to give up further trying, thy song burst upon my heart. Oh, let me broadcast through my every word, now, the chorus of thy songs. This question, does Satan exist, is a vital one on the spiritual path. And it can come up in sort of different ways. In one sense, according to Western philosophy, which of course permeates all over the planet, East and West alike, there has been this sense that, as described in the reading, that the Satan is not real, the devil is not real. That's just something people blame their psychological problems on. And whenever we're trying to understand truth, it can be very helpful as disciples to know, what did Master say? It's really that easy for us as disciples. It's not an explanation to other people, if they're not disciples, for example, but a disciple will listen to what the Guru said and try to relate to it, and also feel not only this is true, as opposed to other things which may be true too, but this is the true that's for me. Meaning this is the kind of truth that I can understand, that's helpful for me in my path. There are, for example, many philosophies of India. It's interesting, there are 6 that are well known, and Master said, Sri Yukteswar said there are actually 7, but he forgot what the 7th one was. And Sri Yukteswar did not forget anything, so it makes you just wonder what was going on there. But anyway, the 6 are commonly shared, and some of them, like Vaisheshika philosophy, is all about the nature of the atom, the building blocks of of force. It's funny because I see a lot of blank looks, but I got one vigorous nod. Yes, Vaisheshika atom. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so somebody's been doing their studying. So, but these are things that may be helpful, may be informative, but even if we looked at it from the point of view of quantum physics in terms of quarks and leptons and whatever these subatomic particles are, it's nice. You could draw some pictures of some if you want, but it doesn't help us in the problems that are coming up for us as devotees, as seekers of truth, as wanting union with God. For us, the philosophy we need is yoga, obviously. And so that is like, so that's why I say our particular truth, or the kind of truth that we are suited for. There's lots of truth, lots of aspects of truth, but the yogi becomes very practical, very demanding in that way. Is this going to help me? Is it going to improve my life? Is it something that I can practice and experience myself? Or do I just have to read? You can approach truth, you can even approach God just through the intellect alone, or at least the intellect tuned into the higher consciousness in time. But why not use all of your faculties, your intellect, your heart, your willpower, all of these things together? So, this, what Master said was, as Prasanna read, now that I have realized God, I add my testimony to those who came before me that Satan exists and that he is a conscious force trying to attack man. That's what Krishna says to Arjuna when Arjuna says, What force sends man to his ill unwilling? See, that's the point. It's one thing if we say, I had to have the whole gallon of ice cream myself. I had to eat it all and not share it. And of course, now I'm off to the hospital, but still. But I had to. I wanted to. Okay, that's different. I bought a kg of Meiserpak for myself. And it is now just lies in scraps on the table. And that's different. Then I didn't want to. But something made me do it. I knew it wasn't right, but I felt pushed. I was trying to fight the temptation, but I couldn't. With the Meiserpak, you say after a half kg, you might have tried to stop. But it's more that we get provoked and we have an instant reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. It just, before we can stop ourselves, and even as we're doing it, and then if someone says you shouldn't have done, oh really, I shouldn't have done, and we know we shouldn't have done, but then we get further provoked. You see, these kinds of things we're not wanting to. So again, Arjuna way back then is saying, unwilling. It's amazing how the human condition is just the same. We might imagine going back to times of Mahabharata. Well, in India it may feel familiar, but it may seem that you go back far enough in time and it's almost like it's another planet. And it's not. You go and you see Aryabhata and he's working on some calculation and he'll have a cough and he'll have a sneeze. And even in Master's recording, we hear him cough once or twice, or you hear him say, in all these years there has never been a fight. You hear him knocking on wood, to avoid the superstition. It's so joyful because it's so human. And the Mahabharata will tell you that if your left eyelid twitches, it's auspicious, and if your right eyelid twitches, it's inauspicious. I remember the first time my eyelid twitched, and then I thought, my God, the Mahabharata has teaching on that. Imagine, again, 2,000 years ago when people are walking around coughing and having twitching eyelids. It's just the same bodies, the same condition. The Mahabharata, let's just even, not to put too fine a point on it, it's even a war between relatives. As the French say, plus le change, plus la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. But it's so beautiful how Arjuna says also, because he's saying it on behalf of all of us, what force sends me to my ill, unwilling, as if one pushed me in that path? You see? Because it's so compassionate to say, look, I have my problems, sure. But there's some other sneaky thing in this formula. And Krishna starts out saying, desire it is. And we go, oh, well, because we can feel responsible for our own desires, even though that's not the teaching. But, well, okay, my fault. Passion it is. Okay, my fault again. Born of the darknesses which push him. Okay, so there's some darkness. What's that about? Is it my darkness? Mighty of appetite, sinful and strong is this man's enemy. You see, so as I said, I have a little bit of a throat problem, so I need this remedy called tea. There is a conscious force, Master said. So that's the answer to Satan doesn't exist. In fact, Swamiji said it's one of the greatest tricks of Satan, that somehow he convinced people that he doesn't exist. You see, it's wonderful for him. First of all, he can go on being busy and never getting caught. But also, it makes our situation all the worse. In anything that we do wrong, you can think of it, if you want to. One way to think of it is, it was partly my fault and partly Maya's fault. If we say, it's all my fault, it's terrible, because then we just feel defeated. We feel, no good when the other person says, that's exactly right, it was all your fault completely. I was just talking to someone last night who was saying, I made a mistake and it ruined my chance at happiness in this life, just about. And I said, that's just Satan talking. There's many opportunities for happiness in this life, many, even in the way, and say, for example, it was the perfect job, or the perfect spouse, or the perfect home, or something like that. If not this one, then another. Meaning, if this one didn't work out, then just keep at it. It's really that infatuation that becomes, this is the only one thing that ever could have. And then on top of that, I made the mistake and it's all my fault. And that despair that comes over us if we think this way, that I did it all, that's not fair to yourself. I mean, first of all, we get many second chances in life. How do we know? Because we get many second chances at life itself. You would just end the life and start again. I don't mean end it. I mean, when the life ends, you start again. And LKG, it's a lot of LKGs. After a while, you sort of had enough of LKG. But if God gives us second chances at life, even if we blow it colossally, even in something that leads to the end of our life, He says, okay, well, Thiram Bhavanga, let's try again. Or Thiram Bhava, he would say. So that feeling of, even in this life then, there have to be lots of chances. It's actually, I don't mean to be unkind, but it's immature thinking. It's often among younger people or people with a younger level of maturity who haven't experienced enough that think that this was my one chance and I blew it and it's over. I certainly thought that a lot when I was young. And so we want to let go of that. Say there will be many opportunities in life, many opportunities even in the next life. Sometimes that isn't comforting. When Swamiji, one of his fellow monks, was really depressed and sat down on his bed, Swamiji's bed, Swamiji said, don't feel too bad, Norm. I mean, it can only last 30 or 40 more years. Either you'll find God or start a new life, Anyway, that didn't work for him. But Swamiji's point was valid. Sometimes part of our pain is just living too much in this painful moment rather than thinking of a good thing that happened to us just yesterday, or a way. At one point I said to a few friends, look, if you can't think of anything positive to think about your situation, just say, it could be worse. And then imagine, I said, or remember, when it was worse, or how it could be worse. And people say, yes, definitely. I mean, the person could have had a gun. Or, you can always add something. Or, they could have run out of dosa batter or something. And I would have been crying and hungry. In other words, you can always think of how it could be worse. But when we think, no, it is worse. It's worse. And it's all my fault. That's not fair. Okay? Another way, if you don't like to think about Maya, which is perfectly fine, you can say it's not fair because I am been sent into this world and need to learn from my Divine Mother, from my Guru. Whose job is it to train me? If you see a child getting into trouble, hurting itself, not that we're trying to blame, but you think the responsibility is the parents. Where were you? Who was watching the child? We often say that. Who was watching him? The child was watching himself. Nope. Doesn't work. I'm 3 years old and I watch myself and and it's all over. Somebody has to be watching. And so that's what we can say. Ama, Enge? Huh? Who is watching me? Why did you let that happen? You see, because no, I'm grown up. I'm supposed to. How are we grown up, really? When we're saints, we're grown up. Meaning, in terms of responsibility, did you make this planet? Did you create all these problems? Did you invent disease and cancer and all these things that just come and are unfair and all that? If you did, I'd like to talk to you. But if not, then just say, look, I'm just doing the best I can. Now, we have to also, though, so we can't say it's all my fault. That's too harsh. And like I said, either you can say, look, Maya is at fault. But remember, Divine Mother made Maya because she's keeping, so the story goes that that God wanted to have some fun besides just being alone. So he created this whole universe through the Om vibration and different planets and so on. And that was nice, but it was kind of dull. Maybe the animals were running around, but he thought it'd be nice to have someone to talk to, though he could talk to the animals. Animals talk all the time. They just don't use words. And his master made that point strongly when someone asked him to speak about Thanksgiving, which is a wonderful holiday in the sense that it's a gratitude holiday. That's how we had to explain it when we first came to India and we wanted to celebrate Thanksgiving and in the center there in Delhi. And the Indians were asking us, but what's Thanksgiving? Because it's a very American holiday. It's kind of a weird holiday, in fact. But the principle of it is a day of gratitude. And so we said it's a day of gratitude. I mean, how beautiful to have that a whole day dedicated to gratitude. And we skipped over some of the politics and the problems and the history of it that was there. Just day of gratitude, nice and pure. But then when Master was asked to speak about it, of course, many years before, what he didn't like about Thanksgiving was that the way you celebrate Thanksgiving is by eating a turkey. And so every year you find in the magazines Master's Thanksgiving letter. And every one of them is a diatribe against non-vegetarianism. Including, you want to be thankful on Thanksgiving, thank God you are not the turkey. Or let us all imagine being the turkey of Thanksgiving with having our necks snapped and so on. I mean, he was very vivid about the whole thing. And so finally somebody asked him, he said he had to give a talk on true Thanksgiving. And he said, what kind of a nonsense of a subject is this? And so anyway, during that talk, it's a recording, you can hear it, where he talks about being non-vegetarian. Now, I have to tell you, he had disciples who ate non-veg, and he encouraged them to become vegetarian, but to do so gradually. Somebody had body pains when he stopped eating meat, and Master said, eat a little bit so that your body grows accustomed to it. But people can get so rigid about pure versus impure, and that's not my purpose. And if we get down on ourselves, I have this habit, I would like not to have it, but I still have this temptation or whatever, there are much more important things to work on than diet. I say this because we can if we're also going, I'm so terrible because of this, that's just Satan all over again. Anything that makes you feel bad, makes you feel small, is Satan. Okay? Feeling like, for example, regret for making a mistake, a real mistake, like screaming at someone, that's a mistake more than eating anything, is to then say, I will resolve to do better. I don't like how this feels, this guilt. I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed. I'm going to work to do better so I don't feel this way. That's good. But to say, I'm so terrible and I just proved it again, that's too much, okay? So we have to understand what is too much. A little bit of responsibility, a little bit of remorse to do better, very important. And so anyway, this thing about, he said the only reason you eat animals is because they don't talk. I mean, just imagine you're sitting down to eat something. It says, wait, stop! Would you like a chair? I mean, you see, he said, it's so fascinating how he was saying this to a whole non-vegetarian country. So please understand. Master's approach to diet was practical. He said, my first generation of disciples, I asked them to, they didn't change their diets at all, and they ate red meat. He said the second generation, they didn't eat red meat. They just ate every other meat, basically, but they didn't eat cows and pigs. And he said, and the last generation were fully vegetarian. And he said, and the youngest ones, they're the healthiest. I found myself, I grew up non-vegetarian. I finally became vegetarian, partly because Master said so, meaning primarily, but I couldn't do it instantly. And I noticed, though, as I gave up some of these meats, that I just felt calmer and it was easier to meditate. It became very practical. And so I was on an airplane and I had gotten the vegetarian meal, and the man sitting next to me just, so that is vegetarian, is it? So what do you eat? I didn't have the heart to say vegetables, but I said, well, I didn't grow up, being vegetarian. Oh, okay. And so then I talked about how I found that not eating meat over time made me feel calmer. I could have said, my guru from Calcutta says so. But what would that mean to him? And so anyway, I said that I feel calmer. Well, enjoy if you can, sort of. But so again, we don't want to feel judgment towards other people if they do things differently than us, and we don't want to feel too harsh a judgment to ourselves while also trying to live up to what our master gave us for our own benefit. It's just that simple. It's not so that he can say, see how many vegetarian disciples I have. What does he care? It's how it helps you. But as I said, there are many more important things to work on than that. If that's an issue for you, don't worry about it. Work on other things. Okay? Unless you really want to, in which case do, but don't feel badly. That's what is taking things too far. So just to speak on the other side, if we blame it all on ourselves, it's not fair. If we blame it all on Satan, it's not fair either. We do have some responsibility in the matter, in getting pulled into those currents. Remember, in any situation, there will be a current that is going to pull you up towards God, and there is a current that is going to pull you down towards Maya. Up towards kindness, patience, your own happiness. That's what generosity, being happy for someone else makes you even happier. Or down into more feeling sad, ego, hey, what about me? I'm just saying. And even if we're right, somehow we don't feel good about it afterwards. You see? And so you can't make a universal rule about something that applies in every situation, except there is a current that will pull us up and a current that will pull us down. And so we have to decide which one we're going to cooperate with. And if we just react, then it's coming more out of the subconscious, as was described in the reading. It's more coming from the past, and it's more than very likely to be the downward pulling current. That downward current is there. So don't think that's my fault or it's my fault for tuning into it. In fact, the whole struggle of self-realization is to break free of that downward pulling current and to enter into the upward current. And this is something we do, 50, 100 times a day. So don't think, I live in the downward current. That's the only current I know. And then maybe one day in Samadhi I'll be in the upward current. Not true. You wouldn't be here if you weren't attuned to the upward current. There's no one, probably on earth, who doesn't have elements, doesn't tune into that upward current, partly because you find so many people who do all kinds of evil things, they justify it. This is why it wasn't bad. If you're going to do evil, why not just say, I am like the president of evil. I'm the evilest there is, and I'm not even going to use proper grammar. And, all of these things. Instead, they're like, it's not bad, actually. It's good. It's the other people who are evil. In other words, people don't want to think of themselves as evil. They want to say, no, I was correct. I was good. I was right. And so they will justify. So there's that sense of, no, I am in the good current. You see, it's just inherent in human nature. So we have to take some responsibility. Partly because we have to say to ourselves, what am I going to do about it? Because we have that freedom, we have that power to choose. Again, that's one perfect definition that Master gave of evil. Evil is anything that takes us away from God. See how easy that is? Because then we can say, well, I like to be humble. I like to say, God, it's all you because you are so great compared to me. Very good, very good. And because I am so humble, I know what a terrible, filthy, person I am. That's no good. That just makes us feel bad. Ugh. So it's taking us away from God, and that makes it evil. Do you understand? So if you feel something is calming, encouraging, strengthening, that, come on, get up, dust yourself off, try again, then that's good. And if you hear stay down because you are the dust and you're going to have a dust sandwich for lunch, no, it's not fair. I mean, because some people will take it too far. It's not as common among devotees, but you find it. There was a friend of ours who had this habit of saying, whatever happened that was bad, that she did, she would say, the devil made me do it. Take it up with the devil. You can write to devil@devil.com or whatever, and then you can send your letter of complaint, but it's not my fault. And so finally, Swamiji, in one of his books, wrote, by the way, if you feel tempted to say, the devil made me do it, don't overlook your own responsibility in the matter. And we all kind of wanted to march up to this part. Did you see chapter 7, second page? Here, let me read it to you. Just because it was a direct answer to that, because she would say that to him too, or he would hear that she had said it. So we have to be careful too. We hurt someone's feelings. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I'm sorry if what I did you took offense to. That's not owning our responsibility. Even if it was an accident. One thing we can say is, could I have been more sensitive? Could I have been more thoughtful? Not that I wasn't, but now knowing that this person doesn't like it when I say you're an idiot and a fool, for some reason, then let me try not to say that. It usually doesn't come through that way. Just saying, no, that's not true at all. And the person hates it. So instead, when something comes up that we think, no, that isn't true at all, we can say, maybe. Well, it could be that. Because first of all, are we always right? Maybe it could be. But also we allow for their opinion to exist. As opposed to immediately, no, that's not the reason. Especially when you say that and you find out you were wrong. It's very humiliating, but then on the other hand, it can be very freeing. Because every time we assert like that, it's the ego being tighter. No, I know. What do we have to know for? Let's just find out. Open up the machine and see if that's the problem or not. Or, maybe. It could be. Let's see. Let's find out. Could we test it? I don't know. Do you want to investigate? It's anything like that. Why not? Why have, and especially if you tend to be right. Even more reason to confidently say, maybe, because it'll probably prove that whatever you thought was true, but they will be able to come to it on their own. Or even if not, it won't be that you said, because, no one likes that. How do you know? Because we don't like it when it's said to us all the time. So what do we do when somebody says, no? Sometimes I will say to myself, I have a filter in my ear. And when what I heard you say was, I'm not sure if that might be true. In other words, you help someone be more polite. Like I will sometimes joke with Dharmini, she'll see me on the phone, and I'll call and I'll say, hi, it'll be a real phone call. I'll say, hi, yes, okay, can you help me with this? We had this order, but then there was a problem, and so she knows they hung up, and then I'll say, thank you, sir, and have a wonderful day. I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. We'll get to work on that right now. In other words, rather than get all offended, why not just fill in the blank? This is what I will pretend that you said. So you see, we work with the reality in that way because Satan is always trying to cause trouble also between people. Swamiji said, if you see two friends who suddenly have this argument coming up between them, even against their will, it's Satan, it's Maya trying to cause trouble. It's working on our karma. We have that potential. In other words, you can see some things don't tempt you at all. Like, so there may be this thought, well, when that person said that, why didn't you hit them? It's like, well, I didn't really have a desire to hit them. Partly because I've spent too many lifetimes in prison already, and I remember them well. So, no thanks. There's no temptation to that at all. Here's a bat. You're welcome to go play cricket with it. I don't need it. So in other words, we get tempted in the ways that we need to still grow in, that we need to still work on. Other things won't be a temptation for us at all, so then those tests don't come. But, so just remember, the blame at most is only 50-50. Half of us, half is ours, half is Maya. Or half is ours, half is God's. And Master said, you can say, Divine Mother, when I did wrong, you did it through me. Not saying, and therefore let's do it again. But just to say, if it's hard to, he said he likes that when you do that. Because if instead we say it was all my fault, anything I did that was wrong was me, then we pull away from God, as I said earlier. But if we said, listen, another way you can understand it is, who is going to look after me? Who's watching me, as I said earlier? Who's going to help me? Or we can simply say, I don't want to behave this way. Even if provoked. I want to be stronger. I want to be calmer. I want to be an adult. I want to be grown up. The only adults in this world are the saints. And so that's what we're in the business of becoming. So another way to apply this on a practical level is, I was really upset about something, and I talked to Haridas Ji about it. This is when we lived together many years ago. And he said, I find it helpful, though, sometimes to be the first one in an argument or in a disagreement, the first one to apologize. I'm so sorry that you're such an idiot. That's the only kind of apology I could think of. It's all your fault. I'm innocent, but I'm sorry. And he said, no. He said, sometimes, he said, certainly it's true that, you're often in an argument with a coal black being, the only person on earth without a soul, and so on. And he said, but sometimes I apologize for Maya. I'm sorry that there is Maya. Because we should feel sorry that there's Maya. I mean, again, war continues in the yugas all the way into the end of Treta Yuga, and then finally war goes away. And why? The Sri Yukteswarji explained, I think he did, if not, then the scriptures explain, that because at the end of Treta Yuga, everybody becomes fully telepathic. There's no need for languages anymore. Even if you speak a language, you know what the other person means at all times. And then there is no more war. That's the reason. I mean, think about it. It just tells you how much trouble is caused by miscommunication, by not knowing what the other person meant. Suppose someone comes up to you and is screaming, and inside you can feel how sad they are about the death of some family member. You will be very patient with them. You'll know that's nothing compared. But if all you see is the scream, say, you call that screaming, I'll show you screaming. So give people the benefit of the doubt. Give them, in other words, allow there to be, maybe there's something else going on here when you can. But if you say, yeah, that's all I do, that's all I've been doing for the past 10 years, then sometimes it's time to take your space. Sometimes we have to leave people to work it out on their own. You're going to have to grow up. You're going to have to find someone else to pick on. I'm not into it. We can say that to them if you can have a conversation with the person about it, or we can be away a little bit. Sometimes it's not possible to be away a lot, but be away some. We are not in the business of emptying out our veins into cups for people to drink our blood. Anybody who needs you, pray for them, help them, fulfill your fair and legal responsibility. But beyond that, can you eat for them and digest the food? Do they manage to drink on their own? Do they breathe on their own? Are you having to go, okay, that was for me. That one's for you. Everybody breathes on their own. They drink, they sleep on their own, and they can be a big kid and do this on their own too. Okay? So you're going to have to find, if you've never been in such a situation, I'm so glad for you. When it comes, remember this. Life changes as we get older. It's interesting. So the main thing, of course, is where we began. Truth is the light, so wise men say. Look to the light. If you're in a difficult situation and the negative thoughts are hounding you, pouring in, then pray, then chant, then call to Master, say, help me. And you can say, look, I could be the worst person. I remember imagining someone was so mad at me, and they didn't quite say it, but I imagined them in their fury saying, I wish you didn't exist. And I imagined myself saying, too late. I wish you were never born. Too late. Look, you don't have to be perfect to exist. You already exist. So not getting caught up in all of that damning that comes from other people. But remember, if it hurts us, it's because it resonates with something in us too. If somebody said, I wish you had 6 legs and a horn on your head, you'd sort of, I'm going to have to visualize that. In other words, it doesn't mean anything to us. We've never thought it before. But if someone says, you are a sinner and a terrible person, and we go, because we have thought that before. In other words, it resonates with us. So that's the part we need to heal in ourselves. And then somebody says that, you say, yeah. But a saint is a sinner who never gave up. That's what I'm trying to do, is get free. So just be with God. Another thing that's very helpful is to just meditate. If you get too confused, meaning in a situation, stop trying to figure it out. After about maybe 5 minutes or maybe 30 seconds of thought, sometimes the whole problem is just we are being slimed by dark energy. That happens too. That is not rational. Whether it's someone else's negativity or something that's just in the air, you can feel sometimes when there's been a big disaster in the country or in the world, or there's a big war going on, that especially at the start of a big battle of something, you can just feel the disturbance in the force, as it says in Star Wars. You feel this disturbance and we feel agitated, and it's not because we're reading the newspaper, you can just feel it. And again, if you can't, then just give it more meditation, and you will, because we become more sensitive to how connected we are to everyone. And so, remember Lahiri Mahashaya in the middle of a satsang suddenly saying, I'm drowning off the coast of Japan in many thousands of people. And they read in the newspaper a few days later that that's what had happened. That tragedy he felt all of a sudden. So we will feel things to a lesser extent, but we will feel them increasingly, our connection to other people. And so to be aware that sometimes that connection is not helpful, because you feel those critical thoughts. You can suppose you're in a room full of people who think you're an idiot for doing spiritual things. You'll feel that. If nothing else, because you'll feel like, how's the stock market doing today? I've got to make some investments. In other words, we get pulled into the thoughts of everybody around us. Swamiji said the whole of the spiritual path consists in overcoming the influence of other people's minds. You would think it would be overcoming our own mind, maybe, or overcoming Maya or delusion or our own ego. And of course, that's true too. But he said, don't underestimate the effect that other people's minds have too. It doesn't mean they're doing it intentionally. And also keep in mind, that your being positive will also have an effect on people too. So there's that. It goes both ways. But we want to be free. And the tune into the great mind, the all mind, the divine mind, and the divine love. And so in that situation, whenever you're feeling bad, say, Divine Mother, is this what you want to say to me? And if she says yes, that's not Divine Mother. Master, is this what you would say to me? Again, Master would say, look, do you want to start over? LKG is accepting enrollments now. No thanks. I will keep going now. I will make something of this situation. I will find a way. And again, the answer is not necessarily, I brought this on myself. I could have prevented this. Some karmas, some karmic tests, Swamiji said, and I felt he would have said it to me for one test I went through. The test is to discover that there was nothing you could have done about it. You should always try to do something about it. You should fight hard, but if it doesn't work, say, well, there's nothing I could have done about it, and here I am anyway to tell the tale. Or here I am anyway to cry into my pillow, or whatever it is, but I'm still here. And then to be at peace that, okay, Divine Mother, well, that's okay. I remember saying to a friend of mine who was nervous, I said, listen, prepare yourself before I talk. He said, okay, okay. Psyching himself up, okay. And, make sure, think of the questions that you would ask someone if they were giving this talk. The hard questions. Right. If, someone was trying to make you look bad, anticipate that question like the night before and research it. Or come up with your answer that you'll be able to give them, like, I don't have the data in front of me right now. I asked someone that recently, why don't we talk about our spiritual experiences? She said, we have been instructed not to speak of them. I said, well, that's the human resources answer, but let's Master said, when you do, you can lose the energy and the blessing of it after you talk about it. And she laughed because she had a very strong Saturn. So anyway, I said to my friend, and then think also that if somebody's sleeping right in the front row in the middle of the best part of your talk, who cares? Too much payasam after lunch. So what does it matter? Don't look at that person. If there's a scary face, don't look at it. Yeah. I said, so prepare everything you can to succeed. He said, okay. I said, and then if you fail anyway. He said, what? I said, look, at least you'll have the peace of mind of knowing you did everything you could. And if there was something else that you realized went wrong, maybe you'll learn that thing I didn't anticipate. But sometimes we're not going to succeed every time. That's not what's trying to happen. And as Master said, the season of failure is the best time to plant the seeds of success. It's often from our failures that we learn. And what's a failure anyway? As I said, it's just an infinite rebirth cycle until you get free. So it's just learning. So if nothing else, you can tell yourself when feeling this, I am learning. I am learning, and that's what we're here to do, learning until we're free in God.